which would have profound consequences for the subcontinent. Jinnah resented being typecast as Muslim when his manner and dress were so westernized and modern.
When Gandhi came from South Africa, my father was already an established politician.
What would they have had in common which would have led them to understand each other?
Well, I think the original thing that was in common was how to get the British out.
Jinnah's uncompromising nature was about to drive him into the margins of politics. The First World War over, nationalists in Congress were now demanding immediate self-government for India. In 1920, this provoked a split with Gandhi. Like Jinnah, Gandhi had trained in London as a barrister. But he discarded his lawyer's suit for simple peasant's clothes, and he turned the elitist independence movement into a campaign of mass civil disobedience against the British. Such unconstitutional action was to Jinnah an anathema. In the early 1930s, Jinnah's adoption of such beliefs was yet to come. He was living in self-imposed exile in London. Prospering as a lawyer, he tried to enter Parliament, standing unsuccessfully as a candidate first for Labour, then for the Conservatives. Meanwhile, in the unlikely setting of suburban South London, a group of Indian students went even further than Iqbal, coming up with the revolutionary idea of a separate state for Muslims.
In Surbiton, London, we had a big dinner, and we were thinking of these ideas, various ideas of how can we get freedom, how can we get freedom. And finally, it emerged like this. We will have the Muslim state, and what is the name going to be? What name? So we said the first name of the provinces. We had P for Punjab, A for Afghania, K for Kashmir, S for Sindh, and Tan for Balochistan. And we had no idea at that time of East Pakistan joining us, you see. So this is how the word Pakistan was created.
The enthusiastic students took their new plan to Jinnah, now living in Hampstead with his sister Fatima and his daughter Dina.
And when we broached this subject to him, he was absolutely furious. And he said, you know, almost he said, if I can remember quoting him, had it not been for your ages, I would have taken you to be stooges of British imperialism. You're out to break one good the British have done, to unite the heterogeneous elements of India into a united whole. And you're out to break this. Keep away, young men, keep away from this. Something like that.
So at that time, he was still absolutely committed to an Indian union.
Unity.
But in the 1930s, some Muslims in India were becoming worried by Congress. They believed Gandhi, now India's political superstar, was turning it into a Hindu-dominated organization, a charge Congress and its Muslim members fervently denied. The Surbiton students were followed by a succession of Muslim leaders, pleading with Jinnah to return to India and revive the Muslim League. When Jinnah did go home to India, he still wanted to work as an ally of Congress against the British. His plans were wrecked by the elections of 1937. The Muslim League got a paltry 21% of the Muslim vote. Jinnah lost any muscle to force an accommodation with Congress.
It's the day he realized that, and he injected communalism in politics. Mr. Gandhi, I say. And Mr. Jinnah resented that. And he says, you are trying to Hinduize politics. He felt the Hindu being in perpetual majority, they will wipe out the Muslims. And Muslims will remain only serfs and will be totally dominated by the Hindu majority.
Under Congress rule, many Muslims would complain of discrimination and a rise in communal violence. The victorious Congress leader, Jawaharlal Nehru, insisted his party alone represented the Indian people and saw no reason to share power with Jinnah.
Nehru addressed a convention of Congress members, and he said that there are only two powers in the land, the British and the Congress. Then Quaid-e-Azam said, no, there was third party, and that's Muslims.
Zia-ud-Din Suleri, used to go to Muslim League meetings to hear Jinnah speak. He saw how Jinnah, defeated in the election and rejected by Nehru, now embarked on a new mass strategy to build up Muslim support. His rallying call became Islam in danger. Jinnah symbolically discarded his Savile Row suit and appeared in traditional Muslim dress. He advocated the two-nation theory and turned to exactly the kind of populist religious politics which had once caused him to fall out with Gandhi. At the 1938 Muslim League conference in Patna, Jinnah accused Congress of being only a Hindu body.
A Pakistan special or something. The entire leadership being carried in one train. In the center there was a compartment in which he, his sister, Mr. Fatma Jinnah, and myself. And the train pulled up. And the leaders, Muslim leaders who had come to receive him, they were pushed by the volunteers in the crowd. Nobody knew who was where. He stood at the door and he said, look, if you don't behave, I'm going to go back. And then he shouted, discipline. And the entire lot was absolutely silent. And I'm sure a number of those people did not even know what discipline meant. I mean, English word.
Jinnah addressed the crowd at Lahore's Minto Park for nearly 2 hours. But the future founder of Pakistan could only speak fluently in English.
My father was explaining to me what he was saying. And I did ask him, I said, he's speaking in English. And do the people understand? He said they have trust in him, so they know what he's saying.
This old man was asked, do you know what he's saying? He's talking in English. He said, I don't know what he's saying, but I know for definite whatever he's saying is the right thing.
He was explaining at that time that the only answer is a separate homeland for the Muslims of India. We have tried all kinds of solutions with other communities and with the British, but unfortunately it has not come to anything. And we have come to this conclusion that now the final solution is that there should be two states, with the Muslim India and the Hindu India. And people understood.
The Lahore session passed a resolution demanding that areas in the northeast and northwest of India, where the Muslims were a majority, should become independent states. But the resolution was deliberately vague as to whether these states should be inside or outside of federal India.
It just partially advocated the concept of a separate Muslim state, but there were so many loopholes in it, and these loopholes indicated that there was still time if there could be any rapprochement between the Hindus and the Muslims.
While his followers believed he was talking about a separate Pakistan, for Jinnah it was more of a maximum demand. He was now called Qaid-e-Azam, the great leader. By employing the imagery and symbolism of Islam, he'd found he could fire the Muslim masses. But how orthodox a Muslim was he?
He was not a religious man, but he wasn't irreligious either.
Much of the movement's dynamism was coming from the Muslim University at Aligarh, birthplace of the two-nation theory, and now the center of Muslim League youth activity.
When I went to Aligarh, I think it was for the first time that I saw Mr. Jinnah. Tall, handsome, confident, bold. I was definitely attracted by his personality. He galvanized the Muslim masses. He awakened their consciousness and spirit, and a sense of destiny and identity. He declared that Aligarh especially was the arsenal of Muslim India. And most of us, most of the students, not only from Aligarh, but from other colleges and universities, Muslim students, were trained in special camps so that they could contact each and every voter for the battle that was to be fought.
The The Pakistan idea was spreading into the markets and mosques of Muslim